I had kind of a rough life growing up. My dad was very physical, so my mother put me into martial arts when I was 10. So I'd have self-defense growing up against my father. Then when I hit my teenage years, I got into sports real big and made it good in that. Went to college, played in a rock and roll band. I didn't meet the Eternal Grand Master until later, till 1969, through a tournament that I was fighting in Tucson, Arizona. And back then it was called Midwest Karate Federation. And some of the guys that I hung around with said that it might be a good place for me to go, because I needed discipline, I needed some direction, I needed something for my life instead of just being a smart aleck.
When I first went to school up there in Omaha, like I said, I had long hair down the middle of my back, and I really didn't have respect for anybody because everybody I'd met at that point was, their egos were so big, all they wanted to do is see if you could fight or not. And when he first met me, he kind of looked at me and looked at my hair, and he said, get your uniform and get ready for class. I said, all right. But I started in the back of class, and we did, basic punches from a middle stance, and all of a sudden now we're doing this number 2 leg swing thing. Never seen a kick above my waist in my life. And all of a sudden all these people around me, their legs are flying over the top of their head, mine's come about right here. I felt really inferior by the kicking that this man had taught these students. Towards the end of class, they were doing some sparring. So he brought me out to spar some of his black belts. And I fought in open tournaments. I knew no rules. I mean, foot sweeps, face punches, groin kicks, that was all legal to me back then. And the first person came out, and I swept him and smacked him in the head, and he went down, and he brought another one out. Basically the same thing. So I sparred about 3 or 4 of his students. And he stopped, and he, in his broken English way, he stood in front of the class. He says, "You think this guy's pretty good?" And they're all sitting there going. So he turned around and says, "Okay, you and me spar now." I'm like, fine, here goes again, And so he was just so funny when he sparred. He's like a bumblebee. I mean, his hands are up here. He's just kind of motivating like that. And I thought, well, he's short. I'm going to get him. I made one move. Next thing I knew, he's picking me up off the floor. I was like, what did he hit me with? I mean, he knocked me down about 6 or 7 times. And I still, today, I know it's now a side kick that he hit me with over and over and over. But the first thing he hit me was a jump round kick. I mean, spun my head right around my shoulders. And so I sat down on the floor, and he dismissed the class. And he came out and sat in front of me. And he said, "What do you want me to teach you?" And I just kind of looked at him and I said, "If you can teach me how to do a good low block, I would really appreciate it." So that's where we started.
After that first night that we just talked about, because I had long hair, like I said, and the next day I came into the studio because I was there for the weekend, and he came in and he gave me $2 and told me to go across the street and get my hair cut.
Because he's kind of hippie, got long hair and wiggly shirt, and he wore this, what is called this, sandals. First, when you go home, you have to clean up first. And also your attitude's not good, so you go back, you change all that, then you're gonna come back.
So I went across the street and cut off about 1.5 inches. And I came back in and he said, "That's not enough." So I went back and had a little bit more.
Then somehow I thought he's not gonna come, but he will come back again. Really nice, that's okay, now you two, when I ask you to come, you come, tell me what to do, you better do it. And so you say, "Yes, sir," "No, sir," "Okay, you're good enough." So since I adopted him.
So, he always called me a hippie because I was. And then I realized that wasn't important. It's just that it made him laugh because it was just a nickname for me.
I told him to not say those kind of story, but still he been opened his big mouth around.
Well, we were at headquarters one day with one of Grandmaster Lee's younger brothers, and I'd said to him, I said, "We're doing these forms that they really have a background other than than a Korean background. And I said, we need our own forms, not somebody else's forms. And he said, well, why don't you go tell Grandmaster? And I thought, well, this is a pretty brazen thing to do. But I found out right away you never offer a suggestion, because if you do, you'll also get the assignment. So when I went there and I said, sir, what we need right now is our own forms. And he said, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So why don't you start? So I took our old forms that I knew, and we sat down and we talked about it, and I took a broken board that someone had broken, and we started drawing, and we ended up with the star. The very first day the first day we talked about it, the star was conceived.
It's the medical symbol of the person that has his arms out, his feet spread, and it's a circle, and they say that from the center point of the body that's even all the way to that's kind of where the beginning came to develop that, because everything was even. In the old styles, the forms that we did, nothing was ever even. You'd start at one point and end up somewhere else.
And at that point, we laid all the forms out. Within 2 or 3 days, the pattern of all the forms was laid out based on the Sangam star. They all start in one place on the star, which we call home, and then you leave home and you travel all around the star, and then you come back at the end of each form, and just like you do at the end of each day. And there's a whole philosophy built into the forms, and it's in all of our books, and you'll see it throughout Sangam as a philosophy that's based on the forms. The Sangam forms, there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. You look at any other set of forms, there's no connection from one form to another. But the star forms, the Sangam forms, are pretty remarkable.
And what we did was we took and put like all the hand techniques that are around in almost every style, all the kicking techniques, all the stances, and we just started kind of eliminating, because a lot of things were double. And then as a white belt wanted to be created, Grandmaster said, okay, we're going to have high block, low block, reverse punch, and front kick and side kick. Okay, so now put it together. So that's kind of how it started, is that he would say, okay, these are the techniques we want to have at this level. Now you guys go do it. We get together and videotape and then send it to Grandmaster, and then he'd change it around or whatever he wanted to do with it, you know.
I also learned about details, because you'd do a technique and he'd say, you think that's right? And he would change it maybe 1/4 of an inch. I found out that the details really do matter through the creation of the forms. And Master Allemier and I spent, probably 5 years of our life, that's all we worried about, and that's all we talked about. And of course, Grandmaster was over us all the time and giving us direction, and it came out pretty well.
I believe that one of the biggest things that he ever did for me is he gave us the privilege to help create the style of Sangam and create the forms. To me, that was something beyond the realm, because we always learned other styles back then, and they always came from ancient. Here we were, he was allowing me to be a part of changing history. Not a lot of people get to do that, and everybody that's in the ATA organization changed history. Whether they realize it or not, they changed martial arts history forever. I think that probably one of the biggest things that I had a student that came to me that was a blind student, and it was a radical, and they couldn't control him in school, and he was about 15 years old. And I had no clue how to teach a blind person. And so I called the Eternal Grandmaster and I said, how would you teach a blind person? And he goes, I don't know, figure it out. And I taught him with clickers in his hand, with my hands. So I could click and he could hear it and he'd follow it. So he learned to block, he learned to listen, he learned to follow, he learned discipline. I did the same thing with him. I make him sit on the floor and get patience. And he earned his black belt. I thought that all I was going to do was teach people how to fight and how to defend themselves. But I never thought I'd affect people's lives and be a real teacher.
My instructor, Chief Master Allemier, has been an inspiration to me from day one. He's the reason I started the ATA. He's the reason I'm still here. He's been an inspiration, he's been a father, he's been a mentor, he's been a disciplinarian. He puts me aside when I need to be, and he teaches me the things I need to do. A lot of my ATA career is based on what he's taught me.
Even though they could kick 3 feet above their head and I'm working on a waist kick, he made me believe in myself. And it took me a lot longer than the rest of them, but because of the way he believed in me, and I started believing in myself. That's when I started winning in tournaments, and I was never a natural athlete. And he taught me to believe in myself.
I was a green belt. That's the first time I met him, and he came to me and he yelled my name, very military-like. He fixed my middle stance with his famous finger, pointing in my chest, and of course I'm probably about 135 pounds. He's just very intimidating person, and I wanted discipline. I wanted hard workouts, and I kept going back. He's always been there. He's always kind of looking after me.
I guess through every hardship that I've ever gone through, he's either called me up when he finds out about it, or he's been right there for me. I'd have to say he's pushed me along at the times, making sure that, you know, it's not about yourself, it's about your students, being the good leader for them. He's a jokester at times. You know, he can be a big jokester, and not many people really know that. People like him and Master Clark, I understand from years ago, they would do all kinds of practical jokes to one another. If they really got to understand and see that portion of them all, they'd really have a different attitude towards him.
When I first started, I didn't realize the scope of it or even the impact or what it meant at that time. Because he was a 4th degree, and I believe he was soon to be testing for 5th degree. Looking back at it now, I said, oh my God, I was there at the beginning of some amazing journey for this man and for the organization, and I got to see it.
Gentlemen, Chief Master Robert Allemier.
I don't know in my life, without your dad, what would have happened to me. We've changed 1 million people's lives. You can't help but just keep going and wonder now, the next generation. I do hope that they keep the tradition. I do hope they keep the heart and the spirit of Songam Taekwondo, and that's what's important to me. The spirit of martial arts and the spirit of Songam Taekwondo comes from your heart and internally, and it doesn't do any good unless you give it to somebody else. And that's what's been given to me, and I'm passing it on. This organization has blessed many people's lives as they have blessed ours. I think he'd be really proud of our movements and what we're doing. I really do.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2013 ATA Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Chief Master Robert Allemier.
Based on that, I'd like to thank the Commerce Council and the Masters Council, Mrs. Sun-Si Lee and the Foundation for nominating me for this award. And I will humbly accept this award on everybody's behalf, because the organization was not built just by one person. It was us, we, you, your juniors, your juniors, juniors, your juniors, juniors, juniors. We all embraced a vision and passion. And because of that passion we have, the ATA is going to go far into the future and
makes us a strong martial arts family all over the country. And because of that, we are ATA strong, and we are ATA worldwide. Thank you.